I admit I may have screwed up a bit because once again I decided to read two volumes of Hunter x Hunter. I don't have volume 8 physically, but here's volume 9 in all of its glory. Incredible, incredible cover. Corolla's face I always thought was just really, really creepy looking in this. Well, I'm deep into the Yorknew City arc. It is no secret that this is not only one of my favorite arcs in the whole series, but it is one of the best arcs and one of the most popular arcs, dare I say, in all of shonen history. There is so much to talk about, and I'm maybe halfway done with this arc now. No, I feel like there's more. But anyways, essentially, first I want to talk about the significance of this arc. Move the mic a little bit. Okay. The significance of this arc cannot be understated. Okay? Because not only for Hunter x Hunter, but for shonen in general. Okay? Up until this point, Hunter x Hunter was a very cut and dry series. You have your heroes and you have your villains. And the villains, obviously, they're in the way of the heroes, and the heroes overcome them or not. So we start to see that subversion in Heaven's Arena, where Hisoka beats Gon no contest, right? And then promises that they can fight again. And that's a subversion because while it's not super uncommon for heroes to lose a fight, usually you get that rematch. And not only have we not gotten that rematch, I don't think we ever are going to, due to reasons that the story is currently at. So, following that, you have this kind of pivot where Gon and Killua discover a stash left by Ging Freaks, Gon's dad. And in there is a voice message on cassette. And it basically tells Gon, "You're probably going to look for me. Don't, because I don't want to see you." It's pretty brutal for a dad to say that. But it also leaves a memory card with a game called Greed Island saved on it, the save data for it. And one thing I wanted to say also is I think it's really cool that that Gin put that Nen to basically rewind the tape and erase it, because Killua very welly states the possibility that there could be a Nen that could track someone based on their voice. So it just really goes to show that this is a very dangerous world if you're a hunt, or not only if you're a hunter, just if you're anyone and you're encountering someone with Nen. Like, you never really know what you're going to get in a Nen fight. So I really like that. So, anyways, they find out about Greed Island and that it's a very rare retro game. So they actually contact Killua's uh, otaku brother Miyuki, and Miyuki confirms this. So they are able to find out that there will be copies of Greed Island that are up for auction in Yorknew City, which is perfect because the group had previously said they were going to meet up there. So that sends Gon and Killua on this quest. But here's the thing: one of many things of Yorknew City that make it very unique and special is this is not Gon and Killua's story. Gon and Killua are in it, and they do play an important part, but they are not the main characters. Instead, we focus on Kurapika, who, up until this point, has had very little screen time and appeared extremely, extremely one-dimensional. But here, Kurapika is undoubtedly the protagonist. And not only is he a protagonist, he's a very multi-layered one, which we will get to. Essentially, during Yorknew City, there's going to be at this time a big auction, and it's kind of basically just all these treasures, but not only treasures, but also like forbidden treasures. Like, there's even kind of like black market flesh collectors, and there's going to be like flesh on sale. At one point, a character even states that like an infant or something was sold once. So it's very dark and very weird. And Kurapika basically comes to Yorknew City in the guise of wanting to be a bodyguard, but really he's trying to track down the Phantom Troop, who he believe are going to try to rob this auction, because that's what the Phantom Troop does. Well, the Phantom Troop, as we've heard before, are a group that are responsible for massacring the Kurta clan, of whom Kurapika is the sole survivor. he finds out that they actually did this just to harvest the red eyes that are very valuable. In fact, I believe it's stated that one pair sells for 3 billion Jenny, which is an insane amount. Now multiply it by the size of the Kurta clan, right? It's very devastating, and it explains where the Phantom Troop get their seemingly endless money from. But they're not satisfied, right? They want more, and that's what Kurapika knows and believes, and that's why he's here. And sure enough, he's right. So Phantom Troop do invade, and we get this really brutal scene where a lot of these characters that we're introduced to that are they kind of feel like oh, these are cool characters, and I want to see more of them. A lot of them just get killed right here, like brutally gunned down by one of the members of the Phantom Troop who has Nen bullets. So he's an emitter, so he shoots bullets just made out of Nen, and it's brutal. I mean, people are just decimated by this, and then we have Shizuka, who previously showed up as a contestant for oh yeah, so Gon and Killua meet Leorio, and kind of like their subplot for a lot of this is just raising money through like scams in order to get enough money to bid on Greed Island. And so they have this really funny idea of doing an arm wrestling contest, which I believe the 2011 anime actually cut this scene, which is bizarre, but I'm pretty sure they cut it. And Shizuka actually competes and is the only person that Gon actually struggles against. And during their reunion with Leorio reveals that he's actually learned Nen. He's kind of acting cocky about it, but as we see later, he only knows a very limited amount of Nen, which I think is really funny. But a giant man comes, and Gon can't even arm wrestle with this guy. So Leorio steps in, and you're kind of thinking, oh, Leorio, really? But he actually wins against that guy, like, effortlessly. So Leorio's not a joke. I mean, we saw also during the Zoldyck arc that he pushed those doors open by himself, which, again, I think the anime cut that. So the anime is not really doing justice to Leorio, but that's besides the point. So Shizuka and oh my god, what's his name? Franklin, I want to say. Like, am I only saying that because he looks like Frankenstein? Let me see. It is Franklin. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Franklin is the emitter with the Nen bullets, and Shizuka is a conjurer, and she summons her vacuum binky to suck everything up, right? But it's all for naught because the vault is empty, and it turns out that there was a man who, basically his Nen is he can like pocket anything. He pocketed all of that. So now it's this whole thing where the Phantom Troop are they're trying to procure this bounty, right? So again, this is where the Yorknew City arc differs a lot from other shonen arcs, where we actually spend a significant amount of time with the Phantom Troop here, and it's actually kind of compelling because they're undoubtedly the villains, right? They are thieves, they are murderers, they committed genocide, but we see their interpersonal connections. They're very lovable characters. A lot of them even like besides like Uvogin and Franklin and I suppose Corolla Lucifer, like a lot of them don't even look super villainous. Like Shizuka and Machi, like it's and I guess Nobunaga as well. So it's kind of jarring, and we see that they really do care for each other. There's Shonark as well. Shonark that looks nothing like a villain. He's like got like a pretty cute face, and he's just like a guy, right? And he's kind of chipper. So we spend a lot of time with them as Kurapika is just mercilessly hunting them down. I mean, he's completely gone with bloodlust, and even Melody, who's one of the new characters that is introduced, one of the new bodyguards. Fantastic character, by the way. Oh my goodness, and a very important character, even like currently right now in the manga. Well, she's introduced here. She's great, but one interesting thing to note about Melody is she reveals to Kurapika that she's looking for this song that's supposedly composed by Satan, and she had some of it played before, and it severely deformed her arms and legs. She reveals a little bit of it to Kurapika, and he's horrified. And she basically says that's her mission, to find that music sheet and destroy it. and there's been no development on that, and frankly, I don't think there ever will be, because I feel like this is just Togashi's way of saying that people have their own dreams and aspirations in this series. This is a real world with real people in it, and that's conveyed very well through the story flow. Where I mean, it flows very naturally, but it flows in an unexpected way as well. Like who knew we were gonna come here from Heaven's Arena? Who knew we were gonna go from here to Greed Island? I mean, it's set up, right? Like that's the whole point of the auction. But in the grand scheme of things, it seems very kind of random. And it's the same with the. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's the same with the resolution of this arc. It's very realistic and not really what you expect from a story, right? In ways, it's very unsatisfying, but unsatisfying in a good way, in my opinion. So, anyways, going back to Melody, she has a line here that really stuck with me on this reread, where she comments on feeling like that she's afraid that Kurapika will kill her. And we know, right, that Kurapika only has vengeance sworn against the Phantom Troop. And in fact, we get confirmation here that he can only use his Nen on the Phantom Troop. But even then, Melody is so terrified by just she's very empathetic, and she can hear kind of the music of his soul, and it is violent, it is dark, it is scary. And that's our protagonist for this arc. Meanwhile, the Phantom Troop, while we are kind of shown and also told that they are villainous, they're kind of lovable. They care for each other. They're genuinely afraid for their lives, and they spend a lot of this arc fleeing or on the defense as Kurapika just mercilessly hunts them down. So it's a very interesting subversion. It kind of makes you think about the moral relevantism that's always at stake in this series. It really shows up here, I would say, for the first time. So, yeah, I mean, it's very profound in that way. We get to finally see Kurapika in real action. This is when his chains are revealed. They're so cool. Each chain on his finger does like a different thing. You can stop bullets with it. Obviously, the trademark is, I believe it says middle finger. He can shoot out a chain that will bind you, and the chains will actually become stronger the more you resist. And while it can seem at first that he's possibly an enhancer, right, because these could just be normal chains, but it turns out he's actually could be a transmuter, right, because these chains are actually Nen. But then it turns out, we learn this during his amazing fight with Uvogan, he's actually a specialist. And we see this in a flashback where at first he believes, I believe it's an enhancer? Could be wrong. But I think the water divination test first says that he's an enhancer. But then he keeps prodding his Nen master about like, well, I want to explore different parts of Nen. And we get like really concrete mathematical computations about the way the power system of Nen works, the way you can bleed over into areas that are close in the Nen circle, but with diminishing returns, right? And we get all that in a very good explanation. But Kurapika's like, I don't care, like I want to try anyways. And it turns out the guy says, hey, do the divination test again. Turns out he's a specialist. And when Kurapika has his red eyes active, he can access 100% of all Nen. And that sounds insanely overpowered, and that's because it is. But there's a caveat. So we also learn during this flashback a very crucial part of Nen, where basically, in order to make it really powerful, you need to set limitations on yourself, because it proves to yourself that you have the resolve, right, to make those sacrifices and those compromises. And so Kurapika is like, okay, well, I want to be able to do all this. I want to be super strong and access all of my Nen, but it'll come at a cost. I can only use it on the Phantom Troop, and if I use it on anyone else, I will die. I will forfeit my life. And Kurapika is able to actually make that gambit because the Phantom Troop obviously had such a personal, profound effect on him. So it's very in line with his character, and it's very sad in a way, because if you think about it, that's all this character is reduced to, is just rage and revenge, and it's a total path of self-destruction, quite literally. I mean, he literally cannot do anything except fight the Phantom Troop. So, I mean, really, like, when he accomplishes this goal, like, what is there left for him? Well, nothing, I guess, and he's alright with that, I suppose, but, I mean, I think it's still really sad to see, because he's still a very young man, you know? And to see him go that path, I mean, it's dark. It's really dark. So yeah, there's that fight with Uvogin. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about it. It's just truly incredible. And it's amazing that Togashi constantly throughout this series, nearly every fight in Hunter x Hunter is extremely one-sided. Yet it is still compelling. In fact, dare I say, it's actually more compelling that it is one-sided. And we get the mental games, we get the physical games, we get everything in this fight. It's absolutely brutal. I mean, absolutely brutal. And I'm not going to go into really the climax of it because it's not in this volume, but I'll get to it next time because, wow, it's really just special. um, what else do I have to talk about? Oh yeah, we get Corolla Lucifer's grand introduction, and what other way to introduce him than him defending Judas from the Bible, where he straight up says, "Well, I don't think Judas actually betrayed Jesus," and he never really elaborates on that. But my interpretation is that Crollo believes in doing what you have to do, right? He kind of believes that this is his role in life. And a major theme, or a motif, I should say, with Crollo is that he has a fractured self identity, and he doesn't really see himself as a whole. He sees himself as parts of a whole, and that part is the Phantom Troop. And this comes from his upbringing on Meteor City, which we learn about way later, but essentially. That's reflected in his Nen as well, which we have yet to see in this volume, so I won't comment on it just yet, but it's translated very well in his name. So, anyways, going back to the idea of roles, I think he believes that Judas played the role that he had to for this Jesus prophecy, right? That if Judas hadn't betrayed Jesus, then Jesus wouldn't probably have gotten crucified. So I think Crollo accepts that as fact, and that like people ultimately are not individuals; they are like pawns in this grand scheme, because I think that's how Crollo sees himself, because he's extremely selfless. I mean, to the point where he can die, and as long as the Phantom Troop lives on, like, he's totally fine with that. So it's a very interesting introduction to the character. We've yet to really see him in action, so I'll keep it there. But believe me, I could talk for a long time about Crollo. I mean, as you can tell in the back, I'm a big Crollo fan. um, see, I have some notes. Let me see. Though I'm kind of like going all over the place, but I mean, can you really blame me? Um, hmm. A lot of these are just, they don't really come into play until later, honestly. Because, like I said, this is still, we're not even in the meat of Yorknew City, and all of this is already going on. I mean, just truly, truly incredible. The art as well, absolutely incredible in all of these volumes. I mean, just brutal, just absolutely brutal. And I'm just looking through. I mean, like, look at that moment with Shizuka just using Blinky to just clobber this guy's head in half. I mean, this is this is nasty stuff. And I know that Shonen Jump was not always, but it did run graphic back in the day. I mean, you have Fist of the North Star, right? You have Saint Seiya, especially, and of course JoJo. I mean, JoJo is about as graphic as it gets, but I mean, Hunter x Hunter really pushes it, especially since this was kind of a transitory series in the late '90s. We're getting it's like that in One Piece, where it's like a little more cartoony looking, right? Like Fist of the North Star and JoJo, obviously. Well, JoJo's stylized, but I mean, proportion wise and everything, it was more grounded, right? Both of those also explicitly took place in the real world versus like One Piece and Hunter x Hunter. Obviously, are fantastical worlds. I mean, even though Hunter x Hunter does incorporate a lot of real life elements, it's very much its own world. So, I mean, Togashi really pushes the gore here to another level. Like when Uvogin has his first fight against the what do they call them, the Shadow Beasts, right? And one guy like takes a big chunk out of his shoulder, and he just reaches over and then just chomps half of his head out, and you just see his brains like melting basically. It's crazy, man. It's just absolutely crazy. Vogan, what a great power. I love that when the Phantom Troop come and rescue him, it kind of is a combined effort. Like he needs Shizuka to suck the poison out with Blinky. Again, they just like really care for each other. and it's kind of uncommon to see that in not just a shonen series, but in general. When you have like an organization, you usually have like the really cutthroat ones. I'd even comment on Paku because she doesn't really shine here yet. Her moment comes pretty much at the end of this arc, but I mean, yeah. I wish I could say more about this because I believe me, I do have a lot more to say, but I'm kind of realizing now that I'm basically at the end of this volume, and if I just keep going, like it's spilling over into the other volumes. So I think I'm just gonna cut it off here. I wish I could make it longer, but that's how it is. So I'll be back with another chunk. I mean, who knows? Maybe even the end of Yorknew City. We'll see.